Hello and welcome back to Collector Creations. In this video we're looking at Imprint's release of the Blair Witch Project, a substantially controversial release, mostly because when they had announced it, the producer of the film was like, hey, don't buy that, we've been working with Second Sight to do a brand new version. So I have actually ordered that Second Sight version. It will be coming in the mail soon. It obviously hasn't. I think it just shipped yesterday, but I'm in Australia. That's in the UK. It's going to take another week to get here. But when it does, I plan to do a comparison, even though I don't really know if it's worth doing a comparison for obvious reasons that we'll dive into. But for the begin with, we've got, the film, the box set. Look at that. It's that whole thingy that's in the movie. It tells you, of course, that it has the first and second film, which is very notable, and the reason I got it, outside of I got it as a bundle deal, and it was cheaper to get it as a bundle than to not. It has the name everywhere on each side, and on the back, on the top, has barcode and all the extra details on the base, and on the back, it has a picture of Heather, as well as a just brief description, basically. A brief description in the phrase of a quote, classic hard box. I don't know why that came off that way. And it comes with... Where are the movies? I don't know, but right now we've got this. This is what is usually stuck to the back of it, which shows the cases, the artwork of the both Blu-ray discs, as well as all the special features, and basically everything that it comes with. So, let's dive into it. The Blair Witch Project, an iconic film that you either love, hate, or only discovered because of Scary Movie. It's, I like the artwork on it. It's, it's one of the theatrical posters. It's a more common poster you see now. It's not my favourite type of it, but it gives you a good feel of what the film's about. Obviously, you've got the details on the back. Apologise for that viewfinder that keeps popping up. Detailing all the extra special features and whatnot. The inside, you get the same disc artwork and some artwork on the inside, which is just a shot from the movie. Blair Witch 2 comes with this artwork, which is nice, sure, why not? Also has a slew of special features, and of course, the disc. And the disc has the same artwork. It's currently in the player. Don't worry about it. And artwork on the inside. So let's talk about the films. So, for context, I have seen the Blair Witch Project before because I have the old Lionsgate 2-pack set, which comes with the Blair Witch Project and Blair Witch from 2016. There is a notable difference. Now, the first big takeaway I would say about this Imprint set is that if you don't have these films, especially if you're in Australia, despite the fact that they are region-free in terms of encoding and whatever, so anyone can watch them, if you don't have these films, this is the best way to get them. Just flat out. Unless you're only a fan of the first film, then I would probably easily always recommend the Second Sight version just because it looks stunning. But obviously I don't know what the transfer and all that extra stuff is like, or what the extra special features have to offer. So at least I can compare this currently to this release. This release is fine for Lionsgate because this is the exact same video transfer. There is no differences between the two. Actually, there is one minor, which this might be bugging some people. So the film is in 4:3, 1:33:1. It's a square with black bars on the side. I did notice issues with the Imprint version. The far side, so I believe it would be this side of the screen, the left-hand side of the image, maybe it's the right-hand side, looking at the viewfinder, had a blue bar right at the very, very tip of it. My finger's too big for the kind of juxtaposition. If it was kind of like that amount, maybe less. Occasionally during the really dark sequences, there is a blue bar that shows up. It's as if the whole transfer was laid over a blue image, and it just kind of shines through occasionally. It's not big, it's not glaring. At first I thought it was like light reflecting off the TV, thinking, oh, well, part of my TV is like silver. So the silver bit's on the side, not on the front. It's a completely flat black image, flat black screen. So I had to get up and look at it. I'm like, oh, that's a problem. I have to note that because I don't know if it's happened with anyone else. And of course, I compared it with this, and this didn't have that problem. So maybe it's just a unique to Imprint deal, which is not great. Did I find it distracting? Sometimes, but to be fair, having watched the film before, it didn't really bother me too much. And to be anything, if I'm going to say anything, given, and I'm going to have to keep saying this, given I'm getting the second sight version, I don't really mind the image quality. I'm mostly here for the second film and the special features that are exclusive to this release. But it's worth noting that that was a thing. But again, it was mostly during the very, very dark scenes at nighttime. Occasionally would happen. It doesn't ruin the last scene of the film, like the whole last sequence in the house. It's there, and then there's enough light in the image. If there's enough light in the image, the bar fades away. But during like the absolute black images, it was there. It gives you some pretext if you are in a completely darkened room, you can see a blue line, so you know that you're looking at a TV, but at the same time, does that kind of ruin the atmosphere? I think so. So that's my biggest takeaway from the video. But in contrast, I'm going to say at least video and audio, it's the exact same as the previous release. It looks and sounds okay. It's not a great looking film to begin with. You know, the digital camera stuff doesn't look great, and the 16mm print stuff doesn't look fantastic either. I've heard better things from the second sight version because they rescanned both. So I'm just going to pin it down this way. This one has a blue line, this one doesn't. But this one has, audio-wise, I think they both have the same. It's just LPCM 2.0. I actually listened with headphones on, and, well, let's be honest, if I had it playing through my speakers and I had my parents next door just hearing fucking Heather screaming constantly, would probably beckon, hey, what the fuck are you watching? Because they scream a lot at each other in the movie. It's just what happens. It's not great, but that's just the movie. But it's not a problem with the audio, it's just the circumstances of recording. But the audio is the same. But special features, there are different things. So the one things that this does have is discovered footage, the theories of the Blair Witch, which is like, I think that was like 3 minutes long, basically just images of quotes popping up with timelines. You have the director and producer's commentary, alternate endings, all 4 clips. Curse of the Blair Witch, which is a 30-minute documentary. They had 3 different mock documentaries, all of which are on the Imprint set, which is wonderful. And the Blair Witch Legacy, which I think... discovered footage was actually them in the tent talking for 3 minutes, whereas the Blair Witch Legacy was just images on screen with just like text about, oh, maybe this happened, maybe that happened, whatever, and trailers. So this one has some decent special features, but this one has the good special features. Like, in general, the set for Imprint has an amazing array of special features, mostly archival, but at least the new stuff, you get a new audio commentary by Matt Blasi, author of 8 Days in the Woods, the making of the Blair Witch Project. This is new and exclusive to them, which is great. I cannot completely contrast everything to Second Sight right now because I don't know what Second Sight has to offer. So if you know, feel free to let me know down below in the comments. But, I could just look it up on the website. But I'm not going to do that because that's not what we're here for. Realistically, I want a good, just reasonable review and perspective on this Imprint set. I have not listened to the commentary. It does come with, obviously, the archival commentary with the writers and directors and the producers, all in one commentary. Of course, Curse of the Blair Witch documentary, the Blair Witch Legacy archival featurette, archival interviews with the writers and directors, unique to this at least, still archival, but not in the previous release that I have. I don't think it's on the US release either. It might have been a DVD archival featurette, which I have the DVD. Do I regret having the DVD? No, I got it for free. I actually had bought something on eBay, and as a gift, they sent me this DVD, which is the special edition worldwide box office smash hit. This does feature newly discovered footage, same as the Imprint version. Producer and director commentary, same as the interactive menus, scene selections. This doesn't have scene selections, just going to say that now. The other Blu-ray does, but you can still skip between chapters. A bit annoying, but worth noting. Imprint doesn't seem to do scene selections very often, if at all, so... I don't know, it's a thing. Production notes, cast and crew information, trailers, Curse of the Blair Witch, and Mythology, all of which are on this, so that's great. Outside of, again, scene selections, everything seems to be on this release, which is great. Doesn't seem to actually have a copyright for the disc, so I don't know, I have it. Have I watched it? No. Will I watch it? Probably not. I can't imagine I'd need to, given it's probably the same transfer, but this is on a Blu-ray disc. This does have, which none of my other releases seem to have, Fear, interviews with psychological and supernatural experts, which basically is like a selection of clips talking about all these different essences of what fear is, and contrasting it to footage from the movie. Basically, a guy says, "Hey, this is what it's like to panic," and then it shows footage of the movie where they panic. It just seems like short little clip teasers for the movie. It's fine. It's nice to have them, but again, they're like 20 to 30 seconds each. There's no play all function. You've got to keep clicking through each one, so that's notable. As well as, again, alternate endings, which is also on the other release, which is all 4 versions. Discovered footage, same as the other release. Theatrical trailer and 2 teaser trailers. Look, there was nothing here that I hadn't seen Curse of the Blair Witch or the Blair Witch Legacy or even most of the interviews. I hadn't seen most of the special features because I had watched the film once, had never watched anything else, never listened to the commentaries. So if you don't have it in Australia, if you don't have it at all, it's not a bad way to go. It's still the old transfer, aside from that blue line that was on the screen, which could be just my disc. I don't know. I hope it's just my disc. But if anyone else has a copy and they have noticed the exact same thing, please let me know down below. It's definitely the best version that currently exists, even though what I'm saying is already outdated because Second Sight's release is coming out this week. So, what do I actually think of the film? Because I want to give a brief detail. I really like the film. I can see why people don't like it. I can see why people love it, because I'm in their camp of, the first time I watched it, my mate was like, you got to watch it at home. No one's, quiet house. No one's home. It's completely dark, whatever. And I think it was the middle of winter. My parents had gone out. Everyone in the household had gone out. It was the perfect time. And I put it on. I was terrified. I'd never experienced it before. It was like, man, these, on rewatch, you realize how annoying the characters are, but it's also like, yeah, I can kind of get it if you're walking in one direction for hours on end and you get nowhere from it. Yeah. Sure, mental breakdown, not to mention the fact that at nighttime you hear creepy sounds. Knowing the production history of, whatever's actually causing the sounds, and it's just knowing what happened, like what actually happened in terms of production, makes it kind of more amusing, especially on a second watch. But I think the nighttime sequences do get really creepy because there's such a lack of visual presence. That the less you see, the more you fear it. And I like that. I don't think the ending in particular is scary, but I do think it is iconic, and it is nicely shot. So, yeah, it is a very interesting film. I really like it. I gave it like 4.5 stars both times. I'm like, this is still great, and it's just so amateur and so perfect for what it is. And to be fair, the extra documentaries, especially the Curse of the Blair Witch and the Burkittsville 7 doco, and what was the other one? I think Shadow of the Blair Witch, which is actually from the Book of Shadows release, are really good at building the world. So if you haven't seen the film before, I highly recommend watching Curse of the Blair Witch first. It predates the film because it released a couple months before the film. It is this great marketing campaign for the concept of the film. And yeah, highly worth watching that to give you some extra little details before watching the film, because otherwise the film feels way too amateur, but this makes it feel more well-rounded and whole. I'd say the same for this, but realistically, the Burkittsville 7 and Shadow of the Blair Witch were both released just before this film was released, so you don't have to watch them before this. But I would recommend maybe watching them before this film, even though the Shadow of the Blair Witch does spoil some sequences from this film, but not to a great degree. So let's talk about Book of Shadows. Blair Witch 2 is, well, it's not a fantastic film, to put it lightly. I think most people kind of already know that going into it. I was aware of it a couple years ago that they had a fan edit that was something different, but not on this release. But I was able to get that on Reddit. Still haven't watched that either. I now have less interest in watching that as well. What do I think of this as a release, though? It's actually kind of not bad. Like, realistically, for a movie that isn't fantastic, nor really that great to begin with, I think this is a pretty definitive version of it. Like, there's no extra versions or whatever, but I think this is kind of, if you're gonna get it, this is the way you'd go. video and audio wise, it looked really nice, actually, especially in contrast to the original film. Obviously, this one's a big studio production and whatever. The more shot-on-film shots look really nice. There's a great texture to it, great lighting to it. The second half of the film doesn't look as flavorful color-wise because they're inside of basically a big warehouse for the second half of the film, which kind of sucks. But when they're outside, it looks fantastic. It looks so beautiful and nice. Even when they cut to like the camcorder footage that they're filming as well, there's obviously the big blue hue and there's like crushed blacks and stuff because it is an old camcorder. But I mean, probably new for the time, you know, but it's fine. That works within the presets of the movie. And as an overall, the transfer looks really nice. It sounds really good too. I listened to it on the 5.1 mix, and it does embody the whole entire surround sound on the occasion. Like, you'd think it would just be like, oh, whispers of ghosts and children. They do use that, but there are sequences where they utilize music as well, like in montage sequences, and you get score and whatnot that, you know, swirls around the whole room. The dialogue is crisp and clear. It's a really solid video and audio release, to be completely reasonable for a not amazing film. Special features wise is probably where I think it shines the most, despite the fact that as a video and audio production, I think it is quite nice. Obviously, you get the commentary of the director, obviously. Audio commentary as well, with select scenes with the composer Carter Burwell, neither of which I have dived into because this is the first time I'm watching the film. Hence my enthusiasm between clips probably pivoted, didn't it? We then get a 20-minute long interview with the director titled Created by Hysteria Directing Book of Shadows. Interview of co-writer and director Joe Berlinger, which is interesting enough as it is. It's a good look of the behind the scenes of like where the film came into production, why he ended up making it, and what changes he made. Because initially the studio wanted to basically remake the original film, and he was like, "Why? By this stage by that stage that they were going to make it, the jig was already up, the actors were already out on like Jay Leno and whatever, and it was revealed that it was all fake. So what's the point in just making the same thing again?" Even if fans wanted that, and he realized, obviously, he's talking about a post-effect, fans clearly wanted that and not what he made. And I don't mind the concept of Book of Shadows. It's an interesting concept, this meta take, which again, there are some documentaries here which kind of like build that up more. I just don't think that the film is very good. For kind of a different reason. A great idea, a bad execution. But there is also a 18-minute long interview with the director of photography, Nancy Schreiber, titled We Brought Something Back, Filming Book of Shadows, which again is a nice, interesting like dive into the filming of the film, the different techniques that they used, the different, how they did different scenes in different ways to make it look similar but also different, and then using digital and using film, and, general gist, but also just, enough nice new information as well. So for these being the new features, the two interviews, I think they're quite nice. It gives you a good essence of how the film was made and why it was made, and also just a technical look into the film, because it's noteworthy because the original film was camcorder stuff. There is 16mm stuff as well, but the point is that it was the amateur low budget, found footage approach, and they wanted to kind of replicate that in this one, but also have that studio feel as well at the same time, because it is a mock documentary, fictional, but in the real world kind of film. Yeah, again, concept great, execution not great. Then it has an archival featurette titled The Secret of Esriva, which is reversed backwards. It's basically a 2-minute long featurette that is like, oh, if you want to see these spooky sequences, there's letters in the bottom of the corner of the screen, and all you got to do is rewind this tape. And, it's obviously not DVD featurette, whatever. It's like, oh, if you rewind this tape, you get all these letters and they'll spell out scenes, and then you go look at those scenes in the movie, timestamps, whatever, and you'll see ghostly figures. But the 3 different versions that they showed, which were deleted, were really dumb. Like, the first one was like, oh, this character walks around this bed, but if you rewind it and look again, you'll notice a pentagram. But between these 2 parts of the shot, where, a bedpost divides these lockers, whatever, it goes from an outline of a pentagram that's only there if you really pay attention to it, and you really got to draw it yourself. and then it's suddenly not a pentagram. It's really dumb. There's a lot of stupid shit like that that's like not obvious enough to pay attention to the first time around that I wouldn't pay attention to it the second time around either, unless you had someone there being like, oh, see, there was that thing in the background. I'm like, what is this? Like, it's like watching Tar and knowing that, and not knowing that there are ghosts in the background, and then rewatching Tar knowing that there are ghosts and being like, oh, fuck, there are ghosts in the background. That's interesting. This one, not so much, and this one's, like, overdone. It does have Shadow of the Blair Witch documentary and Burkittsville 7 documentary, which, if I was to suggest watching it like I did before, Burkittsville 7 is the first one I watched, then Shadow of the Blair Witch, which coincided release date with Book of Shadows. These, and same as the Curse of the Blair Witch, are all this kind of true crime look. And they're really interesting, like building the world and the mythos of the Blair Witch, which I love that they're on these. Obviously, they're all featurettes that were released. One was like a Sci-Fi Channel original kind of thing, so released straight to TV, but in promo to build the universe of the film. And none of it seems fake at all. Like they have so much detail, so everything is so well acted. It's like watching a modern day true crime show that's on Netflix or whatever, but in the 2000s, and it's actually all fake just to promote a film, but it's so real that it feels real, and I really like that about it. Like, I'm not huge on true crime stuff, so I didn't care to watch it, but watching it for the mythos element, I'm like, man, that's really nice. So I would recommend them, and that's a great addition to the set. You also get soundtrack, trailer, and live performance by Godhead, archival interviews of the cast and crew from the set, theatrical, and teaser trailer. All that is still archival stuff. And yeah, it's not bad, so let's do a roundup. The Blair Witch Project set is really interesting, and to be fair, I would have loved if it had come with the 2016 film, so I could get rid of my old Blu-ray. So now I have two different Blu-rays, one with Blair Witch Project and Book of Shadows, and one with Blair Witch Project and Blair Witch. So that's annoying. I would have liked the 2016 one to be in this. I don't see why it wasn't, because they're all, the same company, the same. Lionsgate owns all of them, because I think Lionsgate bought it from Artisan. So, yeah, but in all fairness, I think this is a really nice set. The artwork for the set, obviously the design and everything is really nice. The individual cases having their own artwork is great. The, again, video issue from the first film is the only thing I'd note about it, outside of the fact that Second Sight obviously has done their own version, whatever. But for the most part, special features-wise, and even the second film with its video and audio transfer, it's really nice. Like, it's a really good set. If you've never seen these films before, this is a hell of a way to start it. It would mean that you'd have to get Blair Witch separately, and if you wanted the Second Sight version, you'd have to get that separately as well if you're wanting to go hardcore. I know a lot of people were tricky about this because of the price, and yeah, worth noting, it is pricey. Actually, how much was it? That's a good question. Okay, well, on the Imprint Vivision website, it is $70. Do I think it's worth the $70? Well, I mean, it's $35 a film. If you don't have it, maybe not, but at the same time, if you can get it on sale, probably a better option. I, again, bundle dealed it, whatever, so I got it for a good percentage off. And given it comes with so much of a slew of special features, I do think it is to some degree worth it. I know people were very critical of that aspect, but I'm also like, I mean, it's a really good. I would call it the definitive set, but I can't, obviously. For these two films in particular, it's not. It never will be, obviously, because you have the Second Sight version. But again, the Second Sight version is just limited to the first film, whereas this one has Book of Shadows, which I never had before, and it's a really good release of the film, even if the film isn't great. Its main benefit is those extra documentaries like Shadow of the Blair Witch and Burkittsville 7. But again, the new featurettes are nice and interesting, and it looks and sounds good as well. Sure, I would have still liked it with the 2016 film as well, but that would have just upped the price, and realistically, I would have been probably actually more crook about that. I would have been like, man, it sucks that it's so expensive, and I've already got two of these films and whatever. Like, I would have been much more judgmental, realistically, even though now saying it, I'm like, I would have preferred if it had come with a third film, because then it would have been a complete trilogy set, even though they are planning to make more films. So, yeah. If you don't have the films, it's a good way to start it off. It has everything you need in the one foul swoop. It has all the right documentaries, all the right interviews, all the right essays, everything that you need. I would have maybe preferred a bit more extra in terms of actual like video essays discussing the films, especially one talking about the first two films back to back and like kind of getting an understanding of why the first one did so well but the second one didn't. You know, a good deep dive into the two. But unfortunately, that isn't something that we get in this release. But I think we're kind of compensated by having the director / co-writer for Book of Shadows. Having that interview kind of helps. Nevertheless, that was my review for Blair Witch Collection Project. Let me know your thoughts down below if you're planning to buy this set, if you're planning to get the second sight version, if you already have the British version that I showed off earlier. And if Blair Witch, the Book of Shadows 2, whatever, if that already had a previous Blu-ray release. I'm not aware of one, especially in Australia. To my knowledge, it never had a Blu-ray release here in Australia. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time. Adios.